Now that you've got the basics down, now we kind of want to move into something a little bit more complicated. What to do if it's not a perfect square and it doesn't want to get a decimal answer. So when it tells you to simplify, that's a little bit different of an instruction. Remember earlier, if we were looking for the square root of 64, that is 8 times 8, which gives you the square root of 64 being 8. So we need a pair of numbers in order to pull it out. So you can kind of think of this as like married couples or whatever. Two of them, they can get together and move out of their parents' house or whatever. So if we're looking at 63, what you want to do is try to find two numbers that would multiply to give you 63. There's not a right, well, I mean, there's right and wrong answers, but there's not a right or wrong pair. So on this one, if I wanted to use 3 and 21, I could do that. But the higher the numbers you pick, it's kind of the less work you have to do. So for this case, 63, I'm going to pick 9 and 7. 7 doesn't break down any further, but 9 does. So if I break 9 down again, that's 3 times 3. And then 7 would only be 7 and 1, so I can't do that. Once I have it like this, the whole goal is to go ahead and put their house back over them. And then remember, we said if there's a happy couple, then they can get together, two become one when you get married, and they move out of the house. So now this would be out here. So the answer to the square root of 63 simplified would be 3 square root of 7. 7 didn't have a partner. Now, if you're curious, you can actually put both of them in your calculator. And, sorry, apparently my mom texted me. If we put it in the calculator, we would put in the square root. So here's our square root of 63. And it says 7.93. So then if I clear that out and I do the square root of 7, so I hit the 7 and then the square root, and then I do that times 3, notice I get the same decimal, 7.93. Now, again, this would be much easier if you have a calculator like mine, but I didn't bring one home. So let's look at 98. Again, it doesn't really matter what you choose. Again, the bigger that you choose, the better. So if I take 98, and find something that it divides by. Now it's an even number, so I know 98 is automatically going to divide by 2. So if it's an even number and you can't think of anything else, divide it by 2, and it would be 2 and 49. Because 49 times 2 gives me 98. As we said earlier, 2 only multiplies times 1, so we're going to leave it. But 49 is 7 and 7. So once we've got it all the way broken down, we put the rooftop back over, or our square root, and we look for happy couples. Here's 2 7s. So that means they can move out and 2 become 1. So that means that the square root of 98 is 7 square roots of 2. So what about 256? This one, I'm not so sure. Let's see. Maybe 4. So if I divide it by 4, I get 4 and 64. Then 4 breaks down to 2 and 2. 64 is 8 and 8. Then 2 doesn't break down any further, but 8 breaks down into 4 and 2. And then again, we've got 4 that breaks down into 2 and 2. Bring the other 2 down. 2 and 2. And bring the 2 down. So notice I've got a whole lot of 2's. So what I wanted, oh, I should scoot it up so you can see all those 2's. So now if I put the square root back over the top and I look for pairs. Here's a pair. So that brings out 1 2. Here's a pair, so that brings out another 2. Here's a pair, so that brings out a 2. And here's a pair, so that brings out a 2. So if it's multiple items out here, I'm going to multiply those. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. So the square root of 256 is 16. Well, if we recognized this as a perfect square, then we didn't have to do all this work in order to break it down. So what do we do if there's a number in front, like on number 4? Well, as we said earlier, we're just going to leave it there. So 48, we've got 6 and 8. 6 breaks down to 2 and 3. 8 breaks down to 4 and 2. So now I've got 2, 3. 4 breaks down into 2 and 2, and then a 2. So this is going to be a good example for us. We're going to put our square root sign back up, but now we've got to bring this 2 down. So it's already outside of our square root. And now we look for pairs. Well, this one goes with this one. Notice they don't have to be side by side. So these 2 together come out, and they give us another 2. And then these 2 can go together. So those 2 come out, and they also give us another 2. And then I have to multiply these together. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So I've got an 8 on the outside. But on the inside, notice I still have this 3 that didn't get to leave. So 2 square root of 48 is the same thing as 8 square roots of 3. And if you're not sure if you did it right, remember, plug this into your calculator, plug this into your calculator, and you should get the same exact decimal if you did it correctly. Good. I guess I could do one more for you, or at least get you started. Let's look at the really long one down here at the bottom, since this is only kind of a one-page set of notes. I'm actually going to have to get a calculator out, but since it ends in a 0, this automatically usually means that it will divide by 10, it will divide by 5, it might even divide by 20. So if we divide this by 20, let me get my calculator. 2520 divided by 20 is 126. So then 20, I would go with 4 times 5, because those are kind of easier numbers. 126, we could even just do 2, since that's easy. 126 divided by 2 is 63. So now I've got 4, which is 2 and 2. I have 5, I bring down the 2, and then I'm back to 63, which we did earlier, which was 9 and 7. So 2, 2, 5, 2, 9 breaks down to 3 times 3, and then 7 stays. So if we put our... Man, I'm not having good luck tonight. Sorry, guys. Alright, go the adventures. If we put our square root symbol back up, we look for pairs, 2 and 2, so those 2 go together and come out. Then I've got a 3 and a 3, so those go together and come out. And then that's it, so the rest of this stays underneath. So 3 times 2 gives me a 6. And then these I have to multiply back together. So 5 times 2 is 10. 10 times 7 is 70. So this is actually 6 square roots of 70. Good. So you try 5, 6, and 7 on your own.